Fit chat, drip chat, fit chat, drip chat. Look at her pony. Oh my God. Here we are back at it again. Another night, another video. And tonight, as y'all know, or as y'all getting familiar with, I want to let y'all know first and foremost, welcome to the show. Welcome to tonight's discussion. All right. If you're watching this on Facebook, hey, hit that like, hit that follow for me. All right. If you're not watching this on Facebook, then that must mean you're on YouTube. So again, hit that subscribe button for me, please. Okay. As you can see on your screen, we got tonight. Is pride a bad thing? Okay. Tonight's discussion. The pride comes before the fall, right? Can pride lead you to something positive? Can it? Often growing up or often just, in our day-to-day routines and tasks and responsibilities, we may hear people talk about pride as a bad thing, right? When you're having these discussions or when you're talking to people or hearing them speak about pride. And this has nothing to do with any other group or organization or anything like that. We're just talking about pride, right? As a term, as a definition. Shout out and rest in peace to my grandmother, Jessie Long. She used to always tell me, like, little man, I love your walk. You walk like you proud. And I never really noticed it, but she told me that one day when we was coming back from a banquet. And that's something that has stuck with me, man, because I didn't pay attention to things like that. I just walked how I walked. But she told me that. She said, you walk like you proud. And she always told me to have that pride in myself. And my mother used to always tell me, I ain't gonna lie, a lot of times when I would get in trouble, like, son, I'm not proud of what you did, right? Don't make a mockery and don't make a fool of my last name. And I couldn't do nothing but respect that, right? Especially as I became an adult. I couldn't do nothing but respect that. So shout out to my mother too for that. As we jump into the discussion and as we dive deeper, let's start out like this, man. So we're gonna define pride. What is pride? Pride is a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements, the achievements of those closely associated with them, or from qualities or possessions that are widely admired. In other words, it's the sense of self respect, confidence, or honor a person feels about themselves or something they value. I don't see anything wrong with that, and I don't see why pride would be considered a bad thing in that. But we have to look at it objectively, right? Or subjectively. Pride can be a healthy or unhealthy, right? It's two sides of pride. Pride can be healthy or unhealthy, depending on how it manifests. So, for one, on the healthy, positive side, this kind of pride is rooted in self respect, dignity, and accomplishment. It motivates people to take care of themselves and their work, strive for excellence, stand up for their values, celebrate genuine achievements without arrogance. Okay. So, for example, a student may feel proud after working hard to earn a very difficult degree. A parent may feel proud of their child's kindness and hard work and or achievements. A team takes pride in doing their jobs well and helping others. This is very big in my profession. Healthy pride helps build confidence, motivation, and integrity. Right? That's healthy pride. Now, there's also unhealthy or negative pride, which is often called hubris, which was that word I used earlier. You being cocky, or when people tell you be humble. You right, you're not humble. When pride turns excessive, it becomes arrogance, stubbornness, or self-importance. Mm. Um, Moment of truth. I'm not in denial. That's my dark side. Unhealthy pride. That's my dark side, y'all. I'm just gonna come out and say it. So, in unhealthy pride, a person might start to overestimate their abilities, refuse to admit mistakes or accept help, look down on others, ignore feedback or advice, and take credit for others' work. This kind of pride can blind people to their flaws and lead to downfall, a common theme in history, literature, and everyday life. Now, let me stop and let me say something about that. My dark side. And I've noticed this about a lot of entrepreneurs, about a lot of successful people, and it sucks to say, but this unhealthy pride that we're speaking of is usually the thing that drives successful people. You may disagree. Drop it down in the comments if you do. But everything except for the toxicity of taking credit for others' work and looking down on others. I believe that unhealthy pride is a motivator, right? Overestimating your ability. To me, that's just extreme confidence, borderline arrogant, but borderline arrogance, right? Refuse to admit mistakes or accept help. Sometimes no. If you don't admit to your mistakes, that's a bad thing, right? But I could see how sometimes that could be useful, right? Or accept help. Stubborn. I'm very stubborn. Let's be honest. I'm extremely stubborn. I don't like accepting help sometimes because this how I feel in the world that we're in now. Yes, we need others. Without other people, you are nothing. I'm gonna go out and say that. But this is my thing. Um, a lot of times I didn't have anybody else. A lot of times I didn't have that friend. A lot of times I didn't have that mentor or that person next to me or around me that could help me through that circumstance or that situation. So I wouldn't accept help in those situations because I had to know if this happened to me again, or if I was placed in a circumstance like this again, or place myself in a circumstance like this again, I had to know I could do it by myself. I had to know I could do it without help. And majority of the time, I have. Right now, you're not gonna get nowhere in life not accepting any help. But a lot of times, I had to know, like, man, is it me or is it everybody else? I had to figure that out. So the unhealthy negative pride, I think, is a motivator for a lot of people. Now, here we go. Check this out. Examples of what happens when someone becomes too prideful. So for one, personal relationships suffer, right? We all experience that. We all understand that. They may alienate friends or family by always needing to be right or superior. Uh, Another moment of truth. I've been there. So what? All right. I've grown. I'm growing. All right. I'm a perfect imperfection. Number two, career consequences. Refusing to admit mistakes or learn from others can lead to failure at work or missed opportunities for growth. Now, I'm not going I'm not gonna attribute that to my professional life or me and endeavoring in business, but in my personal life, oh yeah, for sure. I've been there. I've been there. But as far as my career, no, I will always accept help because it's about the bread. It ain't about nothing else. It's about mastering the skill. It ain't about nothing else. So when it comes to career, business, things like that, when it comes to making money, or bettering myself, yeah, I'm gonna accept all the help I can, and I'm gonna always admit my mistakes. I'm gonna be the first to admit my mistakes because I need them, and I need that understanding to learn and grow from. But in my personal life, no, bro, no, no. I feel like I'm right, and when I'm right, I'm right, and when I'm wrong, I still feel like I'm right. If you get that reference, you get it. That's just what it is. Number three, historical and literary examples. Now we got King Oedipus. All right. This was a Greek tragedy. His pride made him ignore warnings, leading to his tragic downfall. Now, again, in my profession, no, we leading men, right? And we training men to become um something that majority of the world who green to this, they wouldn't want to see. So and that pride is never good, right? You never want to lead your men to their downfall. You never want to lead them to an ambush. You never want to lead them into darkness, right? So I don't agree with that, right? But that's just a historical and literary example. Another one is Napoleon Bonaparte. His excessive ambition and pride led to overextension and ultimate defeat. Look, when you're trying to be something great, when you're trying to be something bigger than yourself, when you're trying to accomplish something nobody's ever tried, yeah, you're gonna have excessive ambition. And yes, this will lead to a defeat and a downfall. I don't necessarily see that as a negative because at some point everything and everyone is gonna fall some kind of way. Maybe not like overall, but in some instances you're gonna sacrifice things and some things are gonna have to take a backseat to others. Like it is what it is. And a modern example is like a CEO who refuses to innovate or listen to advisors may cause their companies decline. We see this all the time. One of the big YouTubers of Valuetainment, Patrick Bet-David, he talk about this all the time. When you grow too fast, right? When you grow too fast in business and you're doing good, you have a product or a service, but you refuse to innovate. You refuse to constantly strategize and develop, whether that be marketing, whether that be including different things into your services, whether that may be bettering certain things about your products. Refusing to innovate or to listen to advisors, yes, we've seen a lot of companies go out of business and just doing not practicing best practices, and we've seen many companies go under because of this. All right, now number four, it has internal effects. Too much pride can prevent personal growth, create insecurity masked by arrogance, and isolate someone emotionally. Whew, have I done that? Isolated people emotionally. I wasn't big on emotions majority of my life, and I'm talking up until about a year or two, till I had a family. I was never big on emotions. I have emotions, of course. um Sometimes they get the best of me, sometimes they have gotten the best of me, and I didn't illustrate that, and I didn't exhibit that in the most professional or the best manner, right? And it caused that isolation. So I understand the internal effects of that. This is just me being honest, and just giving y'all some moments of truth, right? So in a basic summary, pride and balance equals confidence, dignity, motivation. Excessive pride or a lack of humility equals arrogance, denial, and downfall. Healthy pride uplifts, excessive pride isolates. Okay? That's just how it is. So here are three different examples. Three different philosophies. And again, I'm just gonna introduce this because these are the earliest forms, the earliest philosophies that we can see through literature. First is Christianity. Christianity says that pride it looks at pride as the root of sin, right? So in the Christian thought, pride is often seen as the most dangerous of all sins. It's sometimes called God's original sin. Uh, and we can see that in the attitude that led Lucifer or Satan to rebel against God and Adam and Eve to eat the forbidden fruit. Right. So pride separates humans from God because it places the self above divine authority and humility. Right. So the virtue is opposite to pride or humility. Humility, recognizing dependence on God and the value of others. So, an example might be like a prideful person might think, I don't need forgiveness or I know better than anyone else, leading to moral and spiritual downfall. Right? A spiritual echo. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. That is in reference from Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18. And in this framework, pride blinds the heart and prevents love and grace. And I'm just gonna be honest, we all need love and grace. Like, let's just keep it G. Number two, second philosophy is Stoicism. Pride as misplaced attachment. In Stoic philosophy, so people like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, pride isn't inherently evil, but it is considered irrational when based on external things, wealth, power, or reputation, because those are beyond our control sometimes. So, a viewpoint we can take for this is like pride should only come from virtue and moral character, not status or possessions. I agree 1,000,000%. The, the Stoics warn that feeling superior because of external success leads to instability and arrogance. It does. So here's an example of like a stoic thinker. A stoic thinker would say it's fine to feel proud of acting justly or courageously, but foolish to feel proud of being richer or more powerful, since those things can vanish at any moment. And I can say that about recent examples. For instance, like everybody used to be like starstruck by the big entertainers, right? The rappers, the singers, the actors, actresses, things like that. But now you're seeing people like venturing more towards the YouTubers or just their little local YouTuber that they see that's like homesteading or doing like farming or raising horses and things like that. They're gravitating to people that they share these interests with because these people seem more down to earth. They seem closer to the people. Not they don't seem like they're holier than thou. They don't seem like, oh, I'm doing all this because I'm better than you. Or you can't get next to me. Or you know how people used to be with groupies or fans, like don't touch me. Oh, like that type of action, man. I think that's an example. Like people feel proud because of possessions and materials, but we're seeing a lot of that falling. Not so much in I'm not gonna mention that, but yeah, certain people not they not impressed with that no more. I feel like we become desensitized to celebrity status. All right. So number three, the third philosophy, Buddhism. Pride as an obstacle to enlightenment. In Buddhist philosophy, pride, often called manya, I think I'm saying that right, in Pali or Sanskrit, is seen as one of the mental defilements that obscures wisdom and compassion. Hmm. Pride comes from the illusion of a permanent, separate self. It causes comparison, competition, and suffering. It prevents the individual from seeing reality clearly and from developing empathy for others. I'm not gonna make a comment on those because I think different. Not that I disagree, but I see it in a different point of view, right? So an example may be a person who believes they are spiritually superior might look down on others, ironically moving further from enlightenment. Ooh, we see that all the time. So the goal should be to cultivate humility, mindfulness, and compassion, seeing all beings as interconnected rather than ranked. Hmm. That's true, but there is a hierarchy, and human nature just it doesn't coincide with that goal. So the teaching is conceit is the cause of conflict. Humility is the path to peace. I agree. So pride in Buddhism is not a sin, but a delusion, something to be transcended through awareness and compassion. I could get with that. We just gonna be honest. Like I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, I don't have to. I'm gonna be honest. We can get with that, right? So, like, of course, pride comes before the fall. And my question is, why is it that we in certain communities are so prideful? Not saying that we don't have anything to be proud about, but why are we so prideful to a fault, right? For me, pride can block your blessings and pride can hinder your growth. It's not a characteristic that we should be valuing on the negative side. In opposite of humility. Vanity and pride are different things, though the words are often used synonymously. A person may be proud without being vain. Pride relates more to our opinion of ourselves, vanity to what we would have others think of us. And Jane Austen said that in Pride and Prejudice. A proud man is always looking down on things and people. And of course, as long as you're looking down, you cannot see something that is above you. That's from C.S. Lewis. All right. Here's another verse on pride. And I like this verse from the Bible, right? Pride is the mother of arrogance, right? So Proverbs chapter 8, verse 13. To fear the Lord is to hate evil. I hate pride and arrogance, evil behavior, and perverse speech. Mm. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 2. When pride comes, then comes disgrace. But with humility comes wisdom. That is so true. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 5. The Lord detests all the proud of heart. Be sure of this, they will not go unpunished. If you've read this book, if you read this book, then you understand Proverbs got a lot of game in it, a lot of gems. I would venture out to say just because you're of another religion or you're non-religious, still read the book. The book has a lot of game. It drops a lot of gems, a lot of things you can learn from it. And that's what I use it for. So, we have an example, right, from the same book, and this is King Herod. The believers, the people of the book, y'all understand and y'all know this story. But King Herod's pride in accepting the people's worship and refusing to give God the glory for his greatness brought judgment. God struck him with sickness and he was eaten by worms and died. This was in Acts chapter 12, right? King Solomon in Proverbs said, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Again, Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18. But that's the NIV version, right? So that's what we have from the literature, right? Those are examples, and I know it may seem like I'm using religious texts a lot more in these videos, but like I said, those are some of the earliest forms of literature that we have and that we can use, and they stood the test of time. So I like using those, right? I think they have some great examples and they give some good game about topics like this. Next, as I conclude, I want to talk about appearance because image is big to me, right? And I was always to take pride in your appearance. So the pride of appearance, feel their appearance give their self more worth. not more worth, but it does give you a different level of confidence, and it does make a statement about who you are and about your mentality. So people who have pride of appearance think their beauty makes their self superior to others. I'm not gonna say never been a thing, but I feel like that's a very primitive idea, right? Very primitive mentality. People who have pride of appearance flaunt their figure slash physique so others will praise them. Ah man, we see this a lot. With the gym bros or with the fitness influencers, man, we see this a lot, dude. You know, the juiced up guys, the pumped up guys, or the people on peds or performance enhancement drugs, things like that. I'm not gonna lie, y'all do be getting out y'all body a lot. Like they ain't create, you know what I'm saying, the Second Amendment for us to exercise sometimes, and which will humble all of us. Like I just think people like that should calm down a lot because it's gonna be somebody half your size to 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 provide provide a great example of hubris or to provide a cure for your lack of hubris, if I may say. That's just me, and that's just what I hear the crash outs say. I'm not saying I advocate for this, but I'm telling you what they see and how they see it when they run encounter mentalities like this. All right, the pride of appearance. People with a pride of appearance spend excessive time on hair, clothing, weight, body shape to impress. They also have issues like anorexia or bulimia, and they also work hard to avoid the appearance of aging. That's gonna hit somewhere hurt. I'm not gonna discuss that too much because I can't agree or disagree. I'm just gonna leave my personal view out of that. Okay. But in conclusion, throughout history, um we've seen things like leaders drunk on their own illusions and success wander into situational cul-de-sacs where they meet one disaster or another, right? One The last example is Cambyses, one of Persia, who ruled from 529 to 22 BC, invaded Ethiopia without ever inquiring what his troops would need for such a journey. No one dared to challenge him. And when his troops ran out of supplies, they were reduced to cannibalism. That's a big example, right? And that one hits home because of what I'm doing now and where I am now, as in career wise and profession wise. Yeah, I've provided plenty of examples and plenty of different things in this discussion that we can agree or disagree on, but mainly just some things that stand out to me as I asked this question and as I sought out more game and information on the topic, right? So again, I ask, can pride lead you to something positive, or do y'all see pride as a bad thing? I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Like, I'm gonna be honest. I believe all of us have a dark side. And I think to get to certain places in life, you have to bring out that dark side. As a man, I do believe that. But it's not for public view, right? Sometimes things get dirty, sometimes things get nasty, sometimes things get ugly. And you got to get right on in there with it if you want things to work in your favor, right? Not compromising your integrity, not doing things that go against your morals, ethics, and your the legalities of this nation. But there are going to be circumstances and times in life where you got to take the gloves off and you got to roll your sleeves up and you got to get down and then you got to put in some dirty work, right? Again, not saying that in a sense that risk your freedom, but this might be in business. You might have to do the dirty job. You might have to do the job that don't nobody want to do. You might lose your job and you might have to go down and you might have to get your hands dirty and go do some stuff that you don't want to do, you know, in a occupation in order to get yourself back up on your feet, right? You might have people that's going out and doing all the leg work for you in a business, and guess what? Now you can't afford those people. You gotta let them go. Or now you're trying to get these people up to a certain level. Now you got to go down and get hands on with them and teach them yourself, right? How to do this. Now, at a certain level, no, but sometimes that's just what it comes down to, right? I used to have a boss who used to say it all the time: teach your people how to do this, or I'll come down there and teach them. And that wasn't a threat, but I understood where he was coming from. Like, I understood very much so. Being in not his position, but being in certain positions like that sometimes. So that's just what it is. That's me on Pride tonight. That's all I wanted to come to y'all tonight and talk about. Pride always comes before the fall. So watch that, have some humility. And I have nothing more for y'all. I'm out.